Welcome back to the channel and to the Week 4 edition of Trey's Pick 6. That's where I break down and analyze my favorite 6 plays off the NFL slate. Now, last week, we ended up taking 7 picks, man. I found one extra one that I liked, so I went ahead and threw that in there. So we're going to recap those picks before we dive into this week's picks. And, man, I'm glad I threw that extra pick up in there because we had a 7-0 sweep. Man, let's go. Let's keep that energy rolling right into this week, guys. But we're going to go ahead and recap those. We took the Steelers on the money line. Now, I got this one with a profit boost as well from FanDuel, so we got it for plus 139, and we do cash on that. Took Chris Boswell of the Steelers over 1.5 field goals. Cash on that one as well. And we took Skylar Thompson under 198.5 passing yards from the Dolphins. Now, he does end up getting hurt in this one, but I do think we'd cash this one if he hadn't. You hate to see him get hurt, though, man, but, we don't control the injuries there. We just go for the profit, right? And we do get the cash on this one. Then we took the Ravens -1, another cash. Chiefs versus the Falcons took the full game under 46.5, and we cash on that one as well. And we took Joe Burrow over 266.5 yards, also took his passing touchdowns over 1.5. And we cash on those, and that was about the best thing that came out of that Monday night debacle of a game that I ended up going to. Wasted my night, man. We don't got to talk about that, though. Let's go ahead and dive into these picks. Let's get on a more positive note. We're 7-0 last week. We're going to take that positive energy right into this week as well and go over these picks, man. And the first pick that I'm looking at is going to be Jamar Chase under 6.5 receptions. That's right. I'm fading my boy here, right? We're going to explain why, though. We're going to jump right over here to Outlier to get this one started. Now, guys, if you are not on Outlier, make sure you hop into the description, to the pin comment as well. You'll be able to find a link in either of those where you can get a free 7-day trial to, man, what is the best sports betting app out there. I stand by it. I know the other guys on the channel stand behind it as well. Look, it's made us all a better sports bettor. I've heard Ev and Tassos both say it themselves. I can say it myself as well. I used to not mess with player props really at all until I started getting on here on Outlier. It just breaks it down so efficiently. And I used to jump between like 10 to 12 different sites, 12 to 15 maybe, I don't know, a lot of different websites to try to find all the information that I needed to make accurate and informed decisions on which way that I was betting. And I still didn't do nearly as good as I do, man, like 80%, maybe more of what I do now. It comes straight from Outlier, breaks it all down. There's so much information here. Limits all that jumping around between websites. And like I said, man, just really helps out with the player prop specifically for me. But I know, there's you can get game lines on here. You can start breaking it down between halftime lines, quarter lines, spreads, totals. All that is on here as well. But me specifically, I really love it for player props, man. It really helps out a lot in that aspect. And like I said, man, click down there and get that link. You can get a free 7-day trial to see if you like it yourself. And after that, it's only $19.99 a month. Which, look, man, if you're putting any kind of coin on these bets, you win one of these bets, you done paid off that $19.99 a month, right? So you got to love that there. And, chances are, if you're using Outlier, you're going to start cashing on some bets, man. I know I have. So let's dive into it, man. I got Jamar Chase right here. His receptions under 6.5. Now, here's the great thing, too, about Outlier. You click over here to this Add My Pick section, right? And it's going to break down every sports book that you can find this on and what odds that you're going to find it at so that you can find, hey, BetMGM right now has the best price for this prop. I can get this at -135. Now, if we look over here to the right, we can see Carolina against wide receivers, the receptions allowed. They sit at 11th, man. We have green right here, and green is good on Outlier. Red is bad, so they are 11th out of 32 teams when it comes to defending receivers, right? As far as receptions are concerned. And if we look at Jamar over his last 5 games, he's hitting at a 100% rate under this mark. 100% rate, this is this year, week 1 through week 3, he's hit under this mark. We can push it back further, looking at last year even, man. 90% rate in those last 10 games. That one game that he went over this mark was an overtime victory against the Jaguars last season in early December. And if we look at this insight from Outlier, now these insights are great, man. They're just basically, it's just a trend basically, and it'll filter everything down to that specific trend. Now, if we see in this one, he has failed to hit that 6.5 reception mark in 7 straight games now. So you got to love that. It's a lot of green down here. Like I said, green is good, red is bad. And if you look, last 5, last 10, 2024, 2023. It's just a whole lot of green over here, guys. A whole lot of green. So that's what we like to see. And just talk a little bit more about that one, man. Burrow does spread the ball around pretty well, right? Typically, he doesn't focus in on one guy. Uh, I don't, I don't think we see the Bengals slow the ball a ton in this one. I don't think this is that typical Bengals display that we see offensively from them. I think we see the Bengals run the ball a little more in this one than we're used to seeing. The Panthers are middle of the pack at 16th defending the pass. They were just 29th against the run. For all the struggles on the defensive side of the ball, though, the one area I have been impressed with this team has been the offensive line. Right? They've given Burrow time, finally. And if you watched on Monday, they didn't look too shabby in the run game either. And really throughout this season so far, they have been able to create some running lanes. Specifically, Zach Moss has looked pretty decent. I feel like, knowing my Bengals, man, I feel like they're going to play it a little more safe. They're going to play it a little more conservative. They got to get a win, right? So they're going to play off the weaknesses of this Carolina defense, which is more so in the run department than the pass department. I could see us being more run heavy in this one. Like I said, Carolina is 11th so far in receptions allowed. So I definitely see us being more run heavy, which is going to lead going to help us out with this under here. But even if we are pass heavy, right, he's spreading the ball around, and Burrow is loving the tight ends this year. We got Mike Gesicki on one side, got rookie Eric All Jr. on the other. He's really loving that combination right there. Then you got T. Higgins out there, Andre Yosevich. Think Trenton Irwin's back. There's just a ton of weapons, man. Ton of weapons out there. The ball is going to get distributed evenly. Burrow, like I said, is not the type of guy that's going to lock in on one guy and try to force things, right? He's going to go with where the defense is giving them. So unless the defense is like, Jamar Chase, here you go on a platter, he's not going to force the ball that way. And the proof is in the pudding. You look at the numbers, man, right? So I do like this one, Jamar Chase, under 6.5 receptions. And the next pick I'm looking at, it's going to be Chris Boswell, over 1.5 field goals from the Steelers, right? You can get this at BetMGM for minus 135. It's probably going to be one of them ones that I ride till the wheels fall off, because after 3 weeks to open the season with who they call the Wizard of Boz in Pittsburgh, cashing this prop, it feels wild to me that Vegas hasn't adjusted this line or juiced the hell out of it even. But here we are at 1.5 field goals at a juiced, sure, but still respectable minus 135 on MGM. And man, this looks like yet another game that kind of plays into the Steelers' hands and into another cash of this prop, because Pittsburgh, once again, for yet another year, are a run-heavy, defensive-oriented team. And while they struggle in the passing game, they're just 29th out of 32 teams in terms of total passing yards. They're sitting at 12th for rushing yards with a defense that's first in total yards and points allowed, giving up just 8 points a game so far on average. Kills my Bengals heart, man. Now, I do worry about a letdown here after a nice 3-0 start to the year, and they have shown the tendency to lose games that they shouldn't while winning the ones that they have no business winning. And man, that's just par for the course, I feel like, for the entire AFC North, man. That's what us AFC North teams do. A Steelers money line and even Pittsburgh laying the 2.5 is tempting, right? But it feels risky because of that potential for a letdown. So I think the one thing we can be certain of is Boswell is much less of a risk to knock in 2 field goals, even if that letdown did happen, right? I think the Steelers should be able to move the ball against this Colt defense. And although Jaylen Warren is out, it does look like Najee Harris will be a go. And the Colts will have to defend that 12th ranked rushing attack with a Russian defense that through 3 games sits at dead last, giving up over 175 yards a game on the ground so far on average. The Steelers also, even if, with Jaylen Warren out, Justin Fields has some legs on him too, man. He is definitely a threat on the ground as well. The Steelers are tied for second to last as far as red zone efficiency. So punching it in over that goal line has obviously been an issue so far, but insert Mr. Boswell, right? The Colts rank just 23rd in terms of field goals allowed, and he's hit over this mark at a 100% rate this season. He's hit 11 of his 12 attempts so far. And we're going to jump back over here to Outlier for this one. Looking at Keenan Allen of the Bears, receiving yards over 39.5. Now, you can get this at Prize Picks for minus 119. Now, if you don't have Prize Picks, never fear. You can still play this prop as well. It's just going to be a little more juice at minus 130 for DraftKings. But look, in his last 5 games, he's hit over this mark at a 80% rate. In his last 10, even better at a 90% rate. Now, the one thing that might be a little concerning, the one game that he played this year, he has been out. He is coming back this week. He did play in week 1, and he went under this number at only 29 yards, right? Now, if we look down here as well, let's scroll on down, look at the targets. Now, DJ Moore is leading the Bears for targets, right? With Keenan Allen sitting down here at 11. But those 11 targets that make up 9% to DJ Moore's 25% of the target share rate through the course of the season. Those 11 targets was in one game, man. Like I said, so he's only played one game this year. If we look up here against the Titans, he got 11 targets. Only 4 receptions, but 11 targets for a 36% target rate, right? Well above that 25% that DJ Moore has been hitting at. So I do think that he's going to get some looks. I can see Allen getting a little more touches here, enough to get over that 39.5. We only need him to hit 40 yards, Keenan Allen. So I could definitely see him making an impact in this one. And then if we look at the Chargers for their receiving yards allowed, they do rank just 28th overall. And next up, I'm looking at Gardner Minshew of the Raiders. His passing yards over 197.5. We can get this at FanDuel for minus 113. Now, if we look at the Browns against, for passing yards allowed for their defense, they're kind of middle of the pack at 14th, right? Then if we look over here at Gardner Minshew, man, in his last 10 games, he's smacked over this number at a 90% rate. Looking good, man. It's a lot of green down here. A lot of green. Head-to-head, now only one game against Cleveland. That was last year. He hit at a 305-yard mark, crushing this 197.5. Now, he was with the Colts then, but look at that score, man, 39-38. They definitely were able to put some points up on the board against this Cleveland defense. You look at him on the year, he has hit over this mark in all 3 games so far, and he was even benched here, right? The Raiders were kind of getting smoked, and he got benched here, which would be cause for concern, right? Consider Coach Pierce came out on Monday in the press conference and really didn't back Minshew up, right? But then he came out Wednesday and was like, look, there's no quarterback controversy here. Minshew is the starter. So we do know he is going to play, right? And I don't think Cleveland has the kind of team to just I don't know, man. Cleveland looks very shaky this year. I don't think that they start routing the Raiders to where we have to worry about Minshew getting benched again. Personally, I just don't see it happening. And like I said, last year he was able to put over 300 yards up on these guys. Now, if we look at this insight from Outlier, he has exceeded this 197.5 yard mark in 9 of his last 10 games. He's actually averaging 233 yards passing in that time. Then the next prop I'm looking at is going to be Elijah Higgins of the Cardinals. That's their tight end. I'm looking at his receptions under 2.5. We are fading him on the receptions, and we can find this on DraftKings for minus 125 odds. Now, if we look at him, right, look at this insight. He has failed to hit this mark in 5 of his last 6 games at home, cashing at a 83% rate. That 4 was back in December of last year that he got 4 over for the 49ers, and that was in a rout, man, right? So kind of some garbage time stuff right there. In his last 5 games, he's hit under this mark at a 100% rate. You can push it back further in his last 10. That's a 90% rate that he's hit. 100% on the year so far, with just 2 receptions in week 1 and then 1 reception in each of the games to follow. And then the great thing that I like over here, Washington against tight ends for the receptions allowed, they sit at 7th. So a lot of green over here for this pick, right? A lot of green in general. We can get this, like I said, for minus 125 odds on DraftKings. So I like that one a lot. Next up, I'm looking at Derrick Henry of the Ravens. His rushing and receiving yards over 76.5. And before we do, let's go over here and look at his touchdowns real quick. He's actually smacking this at a great rate, right? Now, it is juiced at minus 137 on Prize Picks. If you don't have that like me, your next best bet is going to be FanDuel at minus 140. So it's definitely juiced. Not sure that it makes its way into my final plays. That's why I did not include it in the original Pick 6. But man, it's a lot of green down here, right? This is another cause for concern here. The Bills have been kind of stout against running backs so far for touchdowns against. They sit at 10th. So we don't like that red right there, right? But we do like all this green down here. And then this is this season, right? He did score against the Chiefs. He did score against the Raiders. And he scored twice against the Cowboys. So 4 touchdowns in 3 games. He's hit at least one in each game so far. And it is only at minus 137 and minus 140 on FanDuel, which is juice, sure. But the fact that he's hit in each of these games so far, and it is Derrick Henry, you know, it's worth talking about. So that's why I went ahead and hopped over here to show you guys that. And then this insight right here, he has scored a touchdown in 5 of his last 6 games at home. That one time that he didn't was against the stout Houston Texans defense of that was last year, mid-December. But let's go ahead and look back here. Like I said, this is the pick that I'm looking at specifically, his rushing and receiving yards over 76.5, and you can get this at Caesars or BetMGM or Bet365, all at minus 115. So if you don't have one of these accounts, but you have another, you're still in the books, man. You're still hitting the best price, no matter which way you cut it. Looking at all of those, let's look at this insight right here. He has exceeded this mark in 4 of his last 5 games at home, cashing well over the number, man. Look at him against the Raiders last week, or not last week, 2 weeks ago. And that was in a loss as well. He eclipsed this mark by about 20 points or 20 yards. So you got to love that there. Look at him in his last 5. He's hit this at a 60% rate. That only game this year that he didn't hit over this mark was the first game of the year. He didn't have any receiving yards at all. But 12 receiving yards here to go, along with 84 rushing yards to clear this mark by 20, like I said, against the Raiders, and then crushed it last week against the Cowboys, right? 151 yards rushing, 23 yards receiving. So, I do expect to see some regression there. I don't expect him to put that kind of numbers up again. But a 100-yard regression, I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure that we see that, right? If we look down here, for the Bills, the rushing and receiving yards defense overall, they're 16th in rushing yards allowed, 11th in receiving yards allowed. But if we look at them specifically against running backs, they're 13th against rushing yards, 3rd to last when it comes to receiving yards allowed versus running backs. So I do like this one here for Derrick Henry. I think that we see Lamar. He's been very run heavy so far this season. I think, as the season's gone on so far, we've seen Henry's usage just kind of have an uptick in each game, right? So I definitely see that trending the same this way. And like I said, I expect him to regress a little bit here, but I don't expect them to try to utilize him less, right? As he's progressing through the season, why would we see them use him less, right? I don't see that happening. And, I'm just, maybe this is the bias of me as a Bengals fan, right? I love the Bills and I love their fan base, but I don't think that the Bills have had the toughest slate so far on the year. I don't think that they haven't showed me enough to where I feel like, Henry can't eclipse this number, rushing and receiving, right? And that's the thing too. You got Henry back here, you got Lamar scrambling around, man. It's just more opportunities for a dump off pass. And Henry has good hands as a back too. And we know what he can do with his legs. So this number just feels a little low for me, and one that I am definitely willing to jump on at minus 115 odds. So I like that one a lot. Is going to wrap us up here for the Week 4 edition of Trey's Pick 6. I hope you guys enjoyed the content today. I hope you found it useful. And if you did, please do not forget to smash that like button right down there below and hit subscribe if you have not already. That way you don't miss out on any of the content that we are dropping daily here at the Guy Boston Sports Channel. And guys, we just hit 90,000 subscribers. Man, it's just mind-boggling, right? I started making videos on the channel not too long ago, and I've seen us grow about like 9,000 subscribers, damn near 10,000 subscribers, man, in just a matter of months. It's phenomenal. It's been humbling for me. It's such a great experience putting these videos up and interacting with you guys in the comments. It's phenomenal, man. I can't really express how awesome it is. So guys, keep smashing that like button. Keep hitting subscribe you can't keep hitting subscribe. Hit subscribe if you haven't yet already. Hey, tell a friend too, man. Tell them to hit subscribe, right? Let's get as many people into this awesome community that we're building over here as we can. So that's going to do it, man. I hope everybody has a great Sunday, a great Monday night if you throw some bets in on that one. I will see you guys for Week 5. Hopefully we're talking about another sweep. Wouldn't that just be fantastic, right? So, like I said, man, best of luck. Have a great Sunday. I'll see you guys on the next video.